I wasn't going to say this. I was going to give Ukraine another chance. I was going to be lenient this time around. But it seems that Ukraine is completely unable to do anything in this offensive. We have seen so far they've tried across the front line, they've tried in the Zaporizhia front, they've tried in the Donetsk front west of Uledar, they've tried all they can. They've even sent Leopard 2A6 to the front line with Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, with everything they have, and they're unable to advance past the point of contact, not even reaching the first line of defense of the Russian forces. They're getting hit back at the point of contact. I think everyone here was expecting that the Ukrainians would be at least able to break through the first, maybe even the second defensive line of the Russians. Some even imagined that the Ukrainians would go all the way down to the Black Sea, down to the Sea of Azov. Some even imagined Ukraine would be able to take back Crimea with this offensive. But in the end, after almost a week of fighting, they've managed to advance slivers and taken fields. Every village they have taken so far with these attacks, the Russians have recaptured. And with the latest information, the latest footage, we're seeing that the Russians have destroyed 3 Leopard 2A6 tanks. 3. Not 1, not 2, 3. The Ukrainians have lost 3 out of 14 Leopard 2A6. That is the most advanced tank that they've received. It is comparable to the T-90M, which is the most advanced Russian tank the Russians are using. So we are seeing an utter failure, an utter catastrophe of the Ukrainian offensive, because they cannot continue saying that this is not the offensive, this is just probing attacks. I've been very lenient. They've sent brigade after brigade, battalion after battalion, regiment after regiment, and so far all they've achieved is capturing a few fields here and there. The Russian airstrikes, the Russian artillery strikes, the Russian anti-tank gun missiles, they are all just destroying everything the Ukrainians are throwing at them. The biggest issue we're seeing so far is that the Ukrainians are refusing to commit. So far, all they've been doing is send wave after wave, battalion after battalion. They're not sending real strength. They're just sending it bit by bit. And it makes no sense, because now they're losing Leopard tanks. They're losing Bradley infantry fighting vehicles. It's not making sense. Everything they've been asking for months, they've had for months, they've trained, they've made so many videos. They keep talking about this. This is going to be the offensive. This is going to completely turn the war in Ukraine. And so far, it has achieved nothing. They're just sending waves after waves of human meat-shields and Western tanks just to be destroyed. It makes no sense. I personally thought Ukraine is going to do something now. We've been waiting for half a year. They kept talking about this. Spring offensive, spring offensive, spring offensive. The weather is optimal. They have the best equipment that they are going to receive from the West. And they are completely unable to do anything with it. This, in turn, shows just how much of a difference the Air Force makes. The Russian Air Force has complete air dominance. They just go to the front line with their helicopters and their planes and they just shoot down all of the Ukrainian equipment. And the Ukrainians can't do anything against it. So what if they have Stingers? So what if they have anti-air missiles from their ground? They don't have the real systems. They don't have Patriot system on the front line. They don't have the S-400. All they have left is so little if you look at the leaked documents, which in turn, it looks very reasonable that the Ukrainians barely have any air defense left based on the leaked documents, as we can see. We've seen no videos lately of Ukrainians shooting down Russian Air Force, Russian planes, Russian helicopters. But we've seen so many videos of Russian airstrikes destroying Ukrainian forces trying to advance. we're seeing, if we look at the front line, we're seeing attack after attack after attack. And so far, all they've managed to achieve is a few fields. If this is the long-awaited Ukrainian offensive, which it seems to be because they're sending their best equipment, the only thing that doesn't make sense is that they have sent about 20% of what they have, if we have to believe their numbers. They have sent about 3 brigades, and they have sent 20% of the Leopard tanks, of the Leopard A6, not the Leopard A4s. They have plenty of Leopard A4s, and we have not seen any of them at the front line. The ones we saw from the last video were actually Leopard 2 A6, which we see with these pictures. So what is actually going on? This is not making any sense. This is somewhere between probing attacks and the actual offensive. It's like either the probing attacks didn't achieve anything, so they just keep adding extra forces, but they're doing it at such a gradual rate that it's not making any difference. They're just losing a lot more weapons and equipment and soldiers. Or they are unwilling to launch an offensive. Either way, whatever they're doing is not working. It's been 5 or 6 days of this offensive, and they're not doing anything. They're just stuck at the point of contact. It's as if they're not even launching an offensive. But this is clearly, if you compare this to the map a week ago, this is completely different. So what is actually happening? The Ukrainians are attacking across the front line. But what are they achieving? Nothing. All we can see so far is that the Ukrainians seems to have forgotten what an offensive is like. They've grown decadent over the past few months, thinking as long as they receive Western weapons, Western training, they will be able to do basically anything. Either that, or this is all a distraction. They're sending these Leopard tanks as a sacrifice to have the Russian focus here in the south, make the Russians send their soldiers and equipment down there, and then launch an offensive elsewhere. But then again, is Leopard 2A6 tanks really worth it? Is it worth it to throw your best equipment and well-trained soldiers to the southern front just for distraction? I'm not really sure what the plan here is. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that is what we're seeing so far. And for the best of the... I don't know what to say about this. Anyways, let's move on to the actual update to see what has happened. So the Ukrainians managed to actually capture the village of Lubkova a few days back. However, the Russians managed to recapture it earlier today. So the Ukrainians took it about a couple of hours later, 4 to 6 hours later, the Russians managed to recapture it, similar to the village of Novodonetsk in the Uledar front. Then we saw the Russian forces, they advanced a bit further, capturing the surrounding fields here west of Novodonetsk, pushing back the Ukrainians from their former positions. And according to Remy, the Ukrainians actually also were pushed out of the rest of the fields here to the south of this defensive line. So they completely lost most of the parts here to the south of this river line. Then we see the Russian forces being pushed back by Upytne here to the north of Donetsk. So the Ukrainians actually managed to capture parts here to the north of the village of Upytne. But then again, this is just more fields. As for the northwest of Horylivka, the Ukrainians also managed to capture a few more fields here, removing the Russian bridgehead across the canal here. And then finally to the northern flank of Bakhmut, the Ukrainians managed to advance a bit further, capturing a few more fields and the river line here to the south of Berhivka, and increasing the gray zone around this area. And that is all for the frontline changes. Then we see these pictures here by Deep State Map, where they also analyzed the same pictures, but they saw the Leopard tanks as 2A4, similar to what everyone else saw. However, this is mostly because of the lack of pixels. It's very unclear pictures. This is where this new footage comes in of a drone that goes in and gets clearer shots from the local area of the aftermath of the fighting. And this is where we see the 3 Leopard A6 being destroyed in this part of the front line here down south in the Odehiv front. to the southeast of Oryhiv in the direction of Novopokrovka. That is where this footage has come in. And then we also see the Ukrainian forces actually advancing south of Novodanilivka in the direction of Robytne. However, again, just a few more fields. All they're doing is clearing mines and closing in on Russian positions, and they get hit by Russian artillery in the meantime. So something that could actually be it is that the Ukrainians are trying to clear all of the minefields, all of the initial defenses, as they try to close in on the important positions, the first line of defense and so on of the Russian forces. However, it seems that it is very costly for them to do this. So unless they get major success after that, then this is all a complete useless situation. And then with the latest footage, we see a lot of Leopard tanks as well as other vehicles being just destroyed and left behind here next to the front line to the south of Novodanilivka and to the east of Novodanilivka. And that is all for this update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.